In this video, you learn how to read chord charts for guitar. Now, unlike music notation, which is really only useful to learn if you're going to play a lot of jazz or classical music, reading a chord chart will benefit your playing greatly. It is a skill you will use all the time, allowing you to play songs on the spot without notice. Hi, this is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net, and in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to quickly and easily read your way through a chord chart. But first, I want to make a distinction here. What you see on your screen right now is not a chord chart. This is a chord diagram, which shows you where to put your fingers on the fretboard to form a specific chord. This is a chord chart, what you are looking at right now on your screen. A chord chart gives you the chords to a song in the order that they happen, from start to finish, basically. They chart or map the chords out to a song. I'm not sure why people call chord diagrams chord charts, but it tends to be the case that that's what a lot of people seem to do. Now, maybe I'm being a little bit pedantic here, but I think it's important to have a definite definition of the two. So chord diagrams show you where to put your fingers on the fretboard. Chord charts show you the chords and the order that they happen in a particular song. Secondly, the chord chart you see, well, it's not even really a chord chart, but the chord, the song you see on your screen right now, this sort of format, if you like, is not really ideal, okay? Where you have the lyrics and then just the chords written above exactly where it happens in the lyric. I mean, you can read these things and you can play the songs and that's great, but what happens if you only look at these things is you tend to rely on the lyric to know when to make your chord change. And you're not always gonna have the lyric to help you with your chord change. And even if you did, it's not a good habit to get into relying on something external to keep your time. Now, this lesson is gonna be divided into three parts. First off, we'll look at we'll have an overview of a chord chart. So I'm going to take you through and just point out all the common things you're going to see in chord charts, like the time signature and bars and first and second endings and repeat signs and codas and the like. Okay, so we'll just sort of identify these various elements that make up a chord chart. The second part will be how to navigate your way through the chord chart. We'll actually go from start to finish, adhering to all the things that we pointed out and highlighted in the first section, the repeats and codas and those sorts of things. And if you don't know what I'm talking about here, hold on, we'll get to all of it, so don't worry about that. And then the third part, and probably almost most importantly, how to practice so that you can read through a chord chart on the spot without notice. That's the skill. I mean, it's one thing to look at a chord chart and take your time and read through it and get it all together, but what about if I just threw something in front of you and said, let's play? Could you do that? That's where you want to bring it up to. You want to have the speed as well so that you can do it in real time. Okay, so I'll show you really effective ways that you can practice to develop that skill. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to use Hotel California as our chart to demonstrate how to read a chord chart. Hotel California by the Eagles. So we all know that song, right? And we're going to begin by just having a little bit of an overview. Okay, just pointing out a few things here. When we get to the navigation part, that's where we'll, explore those things a little bit further and they'll make more sense to you. But for now, I just want to point a few things out. So of course, you've got the title up here of the song. Sometimes you'll get the chords or the basic chords of the song for the chart written below the title or somewhere up the top of the chart. That's not always the case, but in this case you do have that. You'll get some information here sometimes. For example, we are capoed at the 7th fret for Hotel California. The key is B minor. We've got, moderately, that's just a vague really indication as to what speed to play at, but of course you've got the song to reference that. You've got the intro, of course we're going to start with that. So some information, sometimes you won't get all that information, but in this chart we do. And then we have the beginning of the song starting on the E minor chord. Now we also have, of course, the time signature here, very important to know what time you're playing in, so it's the common time of 4/4. We have bars and bar lines, so you can see how the music's divided up as we read down the chart. So sometimes there's 2 bars to a line, sometimes there's 3 or more bars to a line. There's no real rhyme or reason to that other than just basic sort of formatting of the chart to make it look nice and neat. But you can see the bar lines and the division of the bars as you move your way through the chart. You can see that in the introduction they're giving you some of the detail of the song, the introduction and arrangement of the picking that we hear in the song. Now that's not always going to be the case, and a chart is not to give you all the detail of the song. Otherwise you'd end up with, many pages, and that's not going to be an effective chart for a basic song. Generally you won't get much detail, if any, but in this case this chart does give you a little bit of the detail of the guitar part in the introduction, and that's the tablature you see there in the introduction. Then we get down to here, we've got the verse. There's a little sign here, a del segno, I think is the close to the pronunciation for that. We'll talk about that when we're navigating the chart, but that's just pointing that out to you now. Here's double bar lines again, more double bar lines at the start of the verse, and we're moving our way through the verse. Here's a coda, so this chart has a coda, so we'll talk about that in the navigation. Next section of the song, the chorus. In the chorus we've got some time bars down here, first and second endings if you like. We'll talk about those. DSL coda, and the coda itself down here. And we've got double bar lines, double dots for the outro of the song as well. And you'll see throughout this chart you'll have the lyrics written below as well as you're playing along. So if you're singing, that's helpful. If not, doesn't matter, they're there anyway. And you'll see additional lyrics for additional verses at the end of the chart, which you would use on the repeats. Now we're going to navigate our way through the chart. So we're not going to play. We want to put our guitars down if we're tempted to play. We just simply want to, scroll through or finger on the page if you've got the chart printed in front of you. And we want to just see if we can find our way from the start to the end. So to begin, we're of course here in the introduction, and we see double bar lines, double dots. So we know we're going to come back to this part of the chart. When we come back to it is when we get to the next double bar lines, double dots, which is at the end of the introduction down here on the third line, at the end of the third line. So you get to this point in the chart and you've got to go back to the start again, where the double bar lines, double dots first appeared, and you play through that again. So that's twice through the introduction. Once you've done that, you then continue through to the verse. You see this little del segno sign, you acknowledge that it's there, you see it, but you ignore it for now. It's not activated. Okay, we'll see when that does come into play. But you're at the start of the verse now after playing the introduction twice. And you see double bar lines, double dots again. So you know you're going to come back to these at some point too. So you're playing through the verse, 2 bars to a line, you've got your chords written above, so you're strumming them out. Or right now you're just scrolling through as we are. As we go through the verse, we see this, coda. That's also not activated yet. We'll get to that. You acknowledge it's there, but you don't need to do anything. You continue playing. And you see double bar lines. So double bar lines simply mean the end of a section. There's no double dots, so there's no returning to anything. You continue through to the next part of the song, which is the chorus. Okay, new section. You play through the chorus, your chords, and you get to the first ending, okay, or a first time bar. That means that the first time you're playing the chorus, which is right now, you play the first ending, which is the B7 chord, and you get to the end of that bar and there's double bar lines, double dots. So that's telling you to go back to where they last appeared, which is at the start of the verse. So you don't go back to where they first appeared, you've got to go back to where they last appeared, which is at the beginning of the verse, and you're going to play from there again. So you're playing through the verse. This is now your second time that you're playing through the verse. You ignore this again, you continue through, you've got double bar lines, that's fine, no repeat, go to the chorus. So this would be the second time that you're in the chorus. So you play through your chorus and you get to the end of this A minor 7 bar down here. And because it's your second time through the chorus, you skip the first ending and you go to the second ending. This is very important. So the first time you play through the chorus, play the first ending. It gives you an instruction to go back to the top of the verse and play through again. Now we're in the chorus the second time, the second chorus of the song. So when we get to the end of the A minor 7 bar, we skip across and we play what's in the second ending, B7. Now you might think, well, it's the same thing as the first ending. Why have this second ending? It's all about what happens afterwards. There's a different instruction at the end of the second ending than the first ending. The first ending's instruction was go back to the double bar lines, double dots at the start of the verse. The instruction at the end of the second ending is DSL coda. This is where the del segno and codas come into play. So DS, this part of the instruction, is telling you to go back in the chart to where this symbol is. And in this case, it's at the start of the verse, little del segno sign, little sort of fancy S. So it's telling you, go back there. So you've just done that, right? So that part of the instruction complete. But the additional part is play until here, where it says coda. Because if you think about it, the ending of the first ending is getting you to go to the same spot in the chart as the second ending is. However, the second ending is saying from this little symbol, play until you get to the coda. So you play from here and you play through your verse up until the ending of the A minor 7 bar. At that point, you've completed this instruction. That's done. And at this point, there's another instruction, further instruction that says go to coda. So here's the little crosshairs sign. You look for it. Here it is down here, typically towards the end of the song or the end of a chart is where you'll find the coda. So it's saying once you've played here, don't play further, the B7 into the chorus. Skip down to where it says coda and play from there in the chart, which is a bar of B7. And then you've got your outro just here from the E7 chord. And that's between double bar lines, double dots. So you're repeating that until you fade it. That's what it does in the song. You would just finish on an E minor chord there if you're playing this song live. This DSL coda is basically getting you to jump back to a previous point in the chart and play to another point within the chart, within those parameters. So the del segno sign and the to coda, play between those two things. And when you get to coda, do exactly what it's telling you to do. Go to the coda. So it skips you to another point in the chart, which takes you to the end of the song. So now, first time you hear all that and you hear me talking about it, it's a lot of words, it's a lot of skipping around. This is as common as it gets. You'll do this in many, many, many songs. It doesn't get any more complicated than that, really. So once you've read your first 5, 10, 15, 20 charts, and certainly as you get into the 50s, 60s, into the hundreds and so forth, it gets very, very simple. It gets way simpler, before you get to reading 100 charts, for example. If you get lost doing this, you don't know if you're doing it right, or you've forgotten what first and second endings mean or anything like that, listen to the song and reverse engineer it. All the answers are in the song. So reverse engineer, listen to the song, and if you're not sure what happens after the first ending, well, listen to that part of the song and see what it does. And you'll see, oh, it's going back to the verse. That's right, I've got to go back to the double bar lines, double dots, and continue through the verse again. The whole thing with first and second endings and DSL codas and repeats and all this sort of stuff is to condense a chord chart into as few pages as possible. That's a good chord chart. There's no point having 8, 9 pages for a basic song because you're going to get lost in that. That's fine when you want to read tablature and get the details of a song down. But to have the blueprint of a song, just the basic structures, the basic things that are going on, you want a chord chart to be 2, 3 pages probably at most. And while Hotel California has a lot of guitar parts and it's a probably close to 6-minute song, you can see it's all nicely mapped out here on 2 pages. Really effective chord chart. We've had an overview of the chart. We've looked at the things to look out for, time signatures and chords and bars and all that sort of stuff, repeat signs, and we've navigated our way through the chart. But how then do we actually practice this? I mean, that's part of it, but here's some ideas for practicing reading chord charts. Listening to the song, not playing at this point, but listening. So when you navigate your way through the chart, you could have the song actually playing as you do it. Okay, so the song's playing and you're following along, and obviously your aim is to keep time with the song. So when they're in the verse, you're in the verse, and when they get to the end of the first chorus and you get to the end of this first ending, you go back to the verse and you'll hear it continue with the second verse and additional verses. You've got the song playing and you're following through, and your goal is to get to the end. And then you actually want to play. Okay, we actually pick up our guitars now and play. Now, I would suggest perhaps doing this, depending on your experience, but doing it without the song initially, because you could look at these chords and go, okay, well, we're capoed at the 7th fret here. And you can go, okay, E minor, B7, D sus2, A7, these are all pretty simple chords, right? But you've got to be able to look at the chart and play as you're playing your guitar, right? And play your guitar as you're looking at the chart. That can be a little more difficult or challenging if you've not done that before. So yes, you've got to play E minor, but you've also got to be focused on E minor, not trying to look at your hands making chord changes. You really want the chords to be automatic here. So know your chords really well so you can direct your focus to the chart. Reading through a chord chart is kind of like walking down the street. You've got to have your peripheral vision. Yes, you want to know that there's the E minor chord, but you can kind of see that there's also a B7 coming up. You're not just totally got the blinkers on and looking at the E minor. As I say, walking down the street, yes, you're aware of where you are. but you're also looking up and looking ahead, because if you just look at where you are at the time and you keep moving forward, you might walk into a tree or walk onto the road or walk into somebody else. Okay, so with a chord chart, same thing. Yes, you're on the E minor, but you want to be sort of looking ahead and seeing that there's a B7 coming up and that there's a D sus. So you're not going to be looking at the chorus when you're in the introduction or even the verse, but you are kind of seeing the bars that are coming up and you're preparing for that. So we want to be able to have all this going nice and well and not have to really pay much attention to the technique of playing the chords, so that we can focus on things like the chart in front of us. So you can practice that just by doing single strums, not even keeping time, just a very loose time, playing the A minor 7 to the B7. Then you could count it off if you like, with maybe a single strum to make it a little easier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and your goal is to keep the time 3, 4, and 1, and watching where you are in the chart and what's coming up. 2, 3, 4 to the C, 2, 3, 4 to the G, 2, 3, 4 the A minor, 2, 3, 4 and the B7. So the goal here, the strategy is to keep what you're doing in the playing very, very simple, so that you can focus on the chart. And as you get better with this, you can add more to the playing, the picking or the strumming or whatever it is you want to do. And you can just isolate sections of the chart to do this with. Just practice the reading element. And then you could get to a point where you can read through the whole chart. So you can do this. I would suggest initially do it without the song playing and just just isolate sections of the song and simplify it, and do it with loose time to begin, then do it with a set tempo that's suitable and keep your time and all of those things we just discussed. Then you can do that with the actual song. The last point I'll make here is, when you sit down to practice reading a chord chart, don't just read Hotel California every day for the next 2 weeks or month or more, because the more you read a single chord chart, the less you actually read it, because you become more familiar with it. You don't really need to read it when you start to memorize it just by looking at it a lot. You want to switch it up a lot. You could do a new chord chart every single time you sit down to do this. If it's fresh, it's new, you're really in the you're creating the situation where you've got to purely read something, and that's the skill we're building. You can get charts online and in books and so forth. Get heaps of them and read through different ones almost every session, and you could rotate through 20, 30, 40, 50 charts, because by the time you get back to something you looked at previously, you won't have memorized anything and you'll have to read it again. So remember, the skill is not, we're building here, is not the song, but the reading of the chart for that song. Okay, so mix it up so that you're always on your toes reading the chord chart. If you would like help with your finger picking, the kind of help that gets you results in the most direct, efficient, fun way possible, then check out the Ultimate Fingerpicking Guitar course, a complete system for fingerpicking acoustic guitar, so simple even a beginner can learn it. I've carefully designed this course to do all the heavy lifting for you, as far as knowing exactly what to do, how to do it, and when to do it in regard to mastering the art of fingerpicking guitar. All you have to do is follow the pathway I've laid out for you. In the Ultimate Fingerpicking Guitar course, you will learn and master all the key concepts, methods, strategies, and techniques needed for fingerpicking, so you'll never put your guitar down in frustration again, thinking, how the hell do I do this? You will also discover the exact order in which to do things, avoiding the all too common mistakes most people make when learning to fingerpick guitar, saving you precious time and frustration. Have your hand held every step of the way with the Ultimate Fingerpicking Guitar course. It will take you from wherever you are at right now with your fingerpicking to where you would like to be, enjoying every part of the process along the way. So click the link in the description below the video and check out the Ultimate Fingerpicking Guitar course. Let me know in the comments section what acoustic guitar topics you'd like to see covered in future videos. I read every comment, so I love to hear from you. Don't be shy, drop us a line, let us know about chord charts. What are some things that you do with chord charts? Are there ways that you like to practice reading them? Perhaps some things that you can add to what we've covered in today's video. It'd be great to hear from you, so do drop us a line. If you like this video, then hit the like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit the all-important notification bell button while you're doing that, so that YouTube can tell you when I've released a new video. Thank you for being here. This is Simon Candy from AcousticGuitarLessonsOnline.net. I always appreciate your time very much, and I also look forward to seeing you in the next video.